everyone, this is my first YouTube video, so I don't know if I'm recording it right or doing things right or editing right, but I'm just gonna go with what feels correct, so if anything looks wrong, I'm sorry. But I've always wanted to make videos talking about what I read and my thoughts on them, so I'm just going to start with what I read this past month of October. I mostly read the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher because I've been on a rereading streak of trying to catch up to his two new releases. I think it was Peace Talks and Battleground. So this month I started with, and I'm just going to kind of do an overview of just the Dresden Files that I read this month, and I might have read books in between, but I'm just going to get the Dresden Files out of the way. I read the 10th book all the way up to the 15th, and I'll kind of go through my thoughts a little bit on those, just kind of an overview. I'll give you my rating and then kind of my short thoughts. So the first one I finished was Small Favor, which is number 10, and I gave that a 5 out of 5 stars. I said that it was a really genuinely good story. What I found with rereading Dresden Files is that Harry Dresden is quite annoying, really in the first 9 books, and he's very chauvinist, and every single woman is attracted to him and is goddess-like attractive, and in this book he kind of toned that back a little bit, which was the first time that I really didn't notice those things, and he just focused on Dresden's character, which was really good. And then I read Turncoat, which was number 11 in the Dresden Files, and I actually rated this one a 5 out of 5 stars as well. And I said that this was, after Small Favor, my favorite. So it kind of, 10, 11, 12 were my favorite in order. So each book was better than the last. There was a lot of character development in Turncoat that I really, really liked. In specifically Turncoat, he had to protect someone who originally was not nice to him. So that development and emotional journey was really cool. And then number 12, I think it was? Yeah, number 12, I'm just looking at my computer. Number 12 is Changes, and that's probably one of the most famous Dresden Files story for a very good reason, because it is the best Dresden Files story. Everything comes together. All of the bad things that Harry Dresden was thinking about doing, that you're like, oh, you know, they're just throwing this in to show that he has a morally gray side. He actually did some of those things, which is really cool, and you don't see a lot of the time in books. And then it just kind of all came full circle. That major conflict happening overarchingly through the first 12 books all came to a close, which was really nice. And then after that, I read the next 3. And when I say read, I actually listened exclusively to the Dresden Files on audiobook. I've never bought one of the books. I really enjoy listening to them. It is my guilty pleasure. And the next one is Ghost Story. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Didn't love it. There was some explanations that it felt just were forced. And then the next one, Cold Days, the 14th book, I rated 4 out of 5 stars. The stakes were just kind of getting higher, and it was getting better. And Skin Game, number 15, I rated 4 out of 5 stars. And that one was just like, it was a good book, but it wasn't my favorite of the Dresden Files. So in between those, I read a few other books. One of them I read was Jade City, which is up here. And it's been on my TBR for a really, really long time, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it. And, you know, I really, really, really wanted to enjoy it, but I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 4 stars. And I just, the first half of the book, I didn't even know what the plot was. And then once the kind of plot started far into the book, I was like, oh, okay, I get the plot now. But it just didn't feel like anything was pushing it forward. It just felt like things were happening. And I liked how the characters did things that were morally not, you know, questionable. But I just didn't feel like I totally connected with it. The ending was super emotional and I loved it, but I didn't feel like it made me desire to immediately pick up the next book. So I haven't picked up Jade War yet. I think I'm going to eventually. I don't know when. But yeah, I didn't love it. It felt like the pacing was a little bit odd. The writing was great. I loved the writing. Fonda had his great prose. But yeah, it just didn't totally do it for me. The next book I read was Crying in Hmart. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. It was incredible. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Sorry, that's my dog. I loved her talking about the struggle of caring for a dying mother when her relationship with the mother is very strenuous. I also greatly appreciated her talking about that dual Korean-American identity and not feeling that she genuinely belongs in either identity and feeling like you have to be one and you cannot be both. I just loved it. It was beautiful. I'm not a memoir reader, but it was really good. The next book I read was the Ex Hex. Fun romance books I read really fast. I rated it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The writing was not great. I noticed the writing, which it just was bland. It was so bland. It was just basic. And the plot that actually drove the story forward was just like, okay. It was okay. Nothing special. And the romance was cute. I could kind of see where it was going. So it was 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next one I read was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. And this is the first book of the Farseer trilogy, meaning to get to it for a very, very long time. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I was listening to the audiobook along with it, which drove it forward for me. But if I wasn't listening to the audiobook, it would have been so hard to get through, and I probably would have rated it a lot lower. This is a heavily, heavily, heavily character-driven book. Now, the prose is absolutely incredible. The only way to describe it is that it feels medieval. It feels like you're in a castle. The way people talk, the prose, because it's coming from first person, from fits the main character because he's in this world. He also, the prose is kind of similar in a medieval way. You get very attached. I wouldn't say attached. You get very invested in the main character, and you are there for their development. And he goes through a lot. And, you know, I really liked it because it's a classic fantasy story. But again, a little bit with Jade City. I think I would have rated Jade City similar to Assassin's Apprentice if I listened to it. But I didn't feel a immediate desire to read the next book. I'm currently reading the next book because I feel like if I don't read it now, I won't ever get to it. But sometimes I struggle with the very character-driven stories. And then the next one I read was The Picture of Dorian Gray, which, let me grab, because, I mean, it's beautiful. I want to read one classic a month, so this was my classic for this month, and it's by Oscar Wilde, and, you know, the plot was really cool. I love the plot. There were a lot of highlights for me, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. And why I took off that star is because some of the writing was just totally superfluous. Like, there was one chapter where it was all prose, no dialogue, and it was just hard to get through. Again, I was listening to the audiobook alongside, so I was able to get through it faster. If I wasn't, I would be struggling. But there were parts that I was shocked about in this book. There were parts that were a little anti-Semitic, and I didn't realize that was in this book. I don't find that anybody talks about it. So, you know, and I'm not making any specific statements in regards to that, because that can be a whole other conversation. But I just found it intriguing that it wasn't in anyone's reviews. It wasn't noted at all, just even as a note. So yeah, I did really like the story, and usually I find that that's part of classics that fall flat for me. The writing is usually beautiful, but the plot and enjoyability of reading the book is not there, which I didn't find with that. So that's the last book that I read this month. So yeah, I hope there are people out there watching this. If you are, please follow me for more content. Comment down below. I want to meet new friends. I want to find people to talk books about. Yeah, thanks for watching.